I wonder if you could talk about why you think there is such a split between the two ideas of cultural and human genocide. Why does that persist? And why, even to this day, we have to push so hard to have this topic discussed?
Okay. Well, the film made quite clear why the two were so closely linked in Lemkin's original conception of the crime of genocide, and also the politics that caused the split that you're talking about. I think courts, which have really only begun to address this issue in the last 15 years, are constantly wrestling with this inherent contradiction. You have, on the one hand, international legal convention that aims to stop the targeting of groups of people for annihilation, groups of people who are defined entirely by their cultural characteristics. I think it's beyond arguing that all the terms in the Genocide Convention, racial, religious, cultural, ethnic, are essentially cultural constructs. And yet it excludes from its terms the visible evidence of that culture. So you have all these dissenting opinions that keep springing up that point this out and visibly make clear the discomfort in this built-in contradiction. I think, like Tim, I'm not optimistic that the Genocide Convention can be revisited. It was adopted at a very particular historical moment in the aftermath of World War II and the foundation of the United Nations. I think at the present time, I have no confidence that the major powers would allow changes like that. Nevertheless, I think on the civil society side, and perhaps in national legislation, we can try to make these connections again. And I think it's absolutely vital. Otherwise, again, we're back at the point where what distinguishes a genocide from a hurricane.
I had an interesting experience speaking to a television broadcaster in Europe from a very liberal country who said to me she couldn't believe I was making a film about cultural things in Syria when there was so much human suffering in Syria and so many, she was like, and I found this a few times, and it's sort of at the core of, there's something, some people have this a real aversion to looking at culture above, in the way that you may be putting it above people. It was a real recoil for her. Anyway, so I mean, obviously, as the film tries to make out, they have to be looked at together. As soon as you start to weigh one up against the other, you get into real problems.